healing yourself in the astral. You're beginning to have a spiritual experience of observing you healing the parts of you that they wounded. And this is showing them how you truly were in the situation. The feelings within you, within your mind, all the things that you had to go through, and how you never once treated them different because of those things, even when you knew they were doing them. The truth is all coming to light now. When these people come back, begging for forgiveness, you need to make a decision. Do you want to allow them to have that chance again? Or are you going to say, I accept your apology? And even though I have let go of all the pain, I can't afford to give you that chance again. Especially since I've not seen any growth in your life thus far. Some people just don't want to grow and change because they like where they're at and what they have. And they believe that it's power. And as much as we want to be there and love them and be their one arms, we can no longer sacrifice ourselves for people who don't want to feel unconditional love. It's only forward from this point on. And people know that they cannot step on you anymore. That you're no longer willing to be their stool to get higher in life. Starting to be steering wheel of your own heart. You kick that person out. And that other person. And all of them goddamn people taking all of you and stripping you bare. Because when you're in need, there's nobody even close to being there. It's not selfish to want to have people in your life that help and support you when you ask. You didn't need them in the first place. You just wanted them. I am proud of you.
The first time was after my dad's accident. Dustin and I went to, oh my god. After my dad's accident, Dustin and I went to my Uncle Johnny's and we're staying there. But my mom and my Aunt Rachel brought children and youth there to get us, and I was screaming and yelling and kicking, and I was so incredibly scared. That day that we were actually able to go temporarily live with my Aunt Rachel. I remember while I lived with her that things were decently calm. Well, I played outside a lot, and she had me going to school regularly. I actually ended up getting extremely sick at one point. Oh, God. She put me into an ice bath, but my fever wouldn't go down, and she ended up having to take me to the hospital, and I ended up having to stay there for 3 days and nights. Nobody stayed with me, so I remember being there, scared at night. I also remember my mom coming to visit and asking me to tell the nurse to bring her some ice chips. Oh my God. Anyway, this was the message, and I have it here. I'm sorry. Did you hear me? Mommy, please. Mommy, it hurts. Listen, do you hear me? Heart beating fast. The sound of bugs and frogs. Anxious, scared, heightened senses on alert, having to try to turn on your brain. But it says, even though I meant to say that, I wrote it, "Tum on your brain." Trying not to hear or have thoughts read. Horny, cold, alone, sad, the smell of beer and piss. Fuzzy body sensations. Ears are clogging and unclogging, and volume is lowering and then heightening, and feeling of water coming out of my ears. Head aching, smelling pee and mold, and not being able to smell. It's cold. I'm tired.
I'm sitting on my bed.
Feeling stuff on my skin and peeling something off. Wanting to hold on. Just stop banging and more banging and breathing. And banging and creepy crawlies on my skin. It's really cold.
When I was with Matt, after I gave birth to Brianna, Matt would continuously leave me alone. It was like I was raising her alone, because if he wasn't working, he was hunting, and if he wasn't hunting, he was sleeping. And so eventually I got to the point where I felt so depressed being constantly alone that I told him I didn't think we should be together anymore, that we needed to divorce. And he started getting upset, and eventually he called his parents to come over, and his parents convinced me that I had postpartum depression and the feelings that I was feeling weren't really real. And I was like, you guys don't know what it's like dealing with your son. But I ended up staying because they made me feel like it must not be what's really going on, that things would change after the postpartum depression left. And what do you know, I ended up cheating on him. After I cheated on him, the day after, I told him. And he got super depressed. And eventually, the only thing that I knew to lead him out of this depression was having guilt-free weekends. And I even let him be able to, not only did I go to the bar with him and pretend to be his sister in order to help him find somebody, which was Anna, I let him actually be able to have sex with her and everything before I ever ended up doing anything else on my guilt-free weekends. But it got to the point where he wasn't following any of the rules that we had set. And I said to him, you're in love with Anna now. You didn't follow the rules and now you're in love with her. So we need to be done. And I was like, I'm gonna go hang out with Melissa at the bar. And I left, but I forgot something, so I came back to the house. And when I came back to the house, he was in his man cave with his shotgun in his hands. And when I opened the door, like, I knew that he was about to shoot himself. And so then I had to stay there until Jeremy came to the house and watched him. About how when we were young kids, teenagers, whatever, we always thought our parents knew so much. Like, somehow we thought because they were adults, that automatically meant that everything they said was correct, and they were never afraid, and they were better than us, and, you know, all these things. And we just couldn't wait until we could make our own decisions, right? And decide our own shit. So isn't it so fucking hilarious how we then grow up to be adults and get frozen in time, unable to make these decisions for ourselves? It's crazy when you think about it, because that's what we do. And then we still somehow feel that it's okay to still make it sound to our children like we know everything, and what we say goes. We don't even know what we're saying for our own damn selves, and yet we're making decisions for multiple children. Like, what the fuck? And yes, even though I've always been able to admit that I don't know all that much, you still want to somewhat sound like you know what you're talking about when you're trying to discipline your children or have a conversation with them about responsibilities, or, you know, making sure they protect themselves. And of course, like, you know how to have these conversations. Like, you've always been able to tell everyone else exactly what it is that should be done, because you can see it clearly and plainly and logically in your head. But when it comes to yourself, it's so much more difficult, because you're constantly doubting whether or not the decisions that you make for yourself are going to fuck up other people. And then in that worry of worrying whether or not you're going to fuck up other people when making this decision for yourself, you end up fucking up those other fucking people. Yet somehow, still, even as adults, we still hold on to the beliefs of our fucking parents. Like, I'm sitting here asking myself, like, why the fuck did you believe all those people so wholeheartedly your entire life? And even when you didn't, like, necessarily agree with them, the doubts were still there, right? And that's you today as an adult, knowing what you know and what you don't know. You still hold on to these beliefs, and it takes everything in you to let go of them. Even when you know they didn't know shit. Even when you know that your parents were probably so fucking outwardly clueless and unresponsible, you still somehow have such a hard time letting go of all of that shit. Why? Why do we do this? Do you guys realize that we tell these stories about things done in history, and mythological things that happened, or like Greece and like Hercules and shit like that, right? But we fail to realize that in every single story, the same plots play out over and over and over again. It's always, they started out hoping for everything, and the man works too hard because he thinks he needs to provide and never spends time with the wife, and the wife ends up having an affair, and there's a pregnancy and this, and these children hate these children, and then it just all goes over and over and over again. Constantly killing each other and fucking other people because we just want to feel loved. We want to feel seen. And yet we don't know how to express that in the most lovingly way, that it doesn't destroy or damage a person. And in the process of staying stuck and with an anxiety, not wanting to hurt them, you end up hurting them in some way.